Video number 2. So, make a list. So what we need to do is, we need to make a list of all the things that are currently in your diet. Everything, start to finish, empty your head, things you drink and things you eat. And also on the side of it, you can make another list of things that are missing from your diet, things that you used to have and maybe like and things. So just make that list. Just empty your head for all the things that you really, really like. So basically, why am I getting you to do this? I'm getting you to do it because you're actually building a menu, if you like. So really empty your head on this and rank them. So your most favorite food or favorite meal, number 1, and then come all the way down the page. You should end up with quite a long list. Okay, so once you've made your list, stick that to one side, and I will ask you to pull that back in 1 second to have a look at that. So the list is to one side. Intermittent fasting. Now this is what all this is about. Okay, the whole thing, the whole challenge is intermittent fasting. Now, what is intermittent fasting? Now, basically what it is, it's fasting is basically the duration of time between one meal and another. So it's normally the fasting, the fast that is most common for us all, I'll get my words out in a minute, is between your last meal in the evening, so we'll say 8 o'clock in the evening, and when we wake in the morning we go for our breakfast. Okay, so we fast overnight, and that's probably about the longest period that we normally do. Okay, so now what we're looking at doing is on some days we're going to extend the fasting period, and also the frequency throughout the week. Now what I'm going to get you to do, now this incorporates number 6 as well, skip breakfast every other day. So basically what we're going to be doing is on a Monday, Wednesday and on a Friday, on those 3 days, we are going to skip breakfast, and we're not going to eat until roughly about midday, depending when you had your last meal the night before. Now, 16 hours is what we have to fast for to get the benefits out of what I'm proposing. 16 hours. So for argument's sake, if your last meal was at 8 o'clock, then you qualify to eat again at 12 o'clock on the next day. So that's 16 hours right the way through. And it's very, very important that we do not have anything that is going to get our bodies to produce insulin, otherwise known as spiking. So lemon water, you're absolutely fine with. Green teas, you're absolutely fine with, as long as you don't slug down loads of them, but a couple of those are fine in the morning. So those couple of things are not going to spike you, but it basically stops there. So we don't eat anything from the last meal at night, 8 o'clock, around to midday, 12. So we got our 16 hours clean. Now this 16 hours is movable. If your last meal was at 10 o'clock, then obviously you can't eat until 2. If it's earlier than that, as long as you do that 16 hours or more, it doesn't really matter. And then you have 8 hours of eating window. So basically from 12 o'clock midday right the way around to 8 o'clock again is your eating window. Now the thing is, on those 3 days, what do you eat? Now it largely comes down to a body of calories. Okay, so for argument's sake, it would be about roughly 1,800 calories in that 8 hours, just on these 3 days. Okay, so what we're trying to do is when we break our fast, okay, which is at midday. Now bearing in mind breakfast, that word, it's usually synonymous with when we first get up in the morning between half an hour and an hour of waking, we usually have our breakfast. But the word breakfast has no suggestion of what time of the day you eat. It's just a word, breakfast. But we got it in our heads that it's first thing in the morning. All it means to do is to break your fast from when you last ate. So all we're doing is extending that time through till 12 o'clock. Now, what we break our fast with is something that's moderate in protein, high in fats, and lower in carbohydrates. What we need to do is, so for argument's sake, if you hit 12 o'clock and you break your fast with some scrambled eggs, which is great. So just about 3 eggs or something like that, beaten up and scrambled through, maybe put some chives in, a little bit of butter or something like that, and you've got yourself a little kickstart. Half an hour later, so 12:30, you could do maybe a bit of bacon, some mushrooms, and a little fried tomato as another little hit. So you're breaking your fast with 2 small little meals that way. So that's what we do there. Then you come around maybe to 5 o'clock and you're going to prepare basically your large meal. So once again, we're keeping that maybe anywhere between sort of 600 and 800 calories, somewhere around about there. So once again, moderate on the proteins, high in the fats, and low to moderate on your carbohydrates. Okay, so you're getting a good round meal there. And all the time we're trying to keep the sugars as low as we possibly can, the same as we have been doing anyway. Okay, and then after that you can move on again towards 7 or 8 o'clock and do a dessert then. So there's another space, so you're spacing out your food, and once again not too high on your sugars and not too high on your carbohydrates. I can give you suggestions on food when I see you, because everybody's going to be slightly different. So basically you've got four basic meals there, 2 small. One, your main meal, and then a dessert, or some people call it supper, and that's fine. So intermittent fasting. Now, how does this work? How is it working? Now, basically what we've been doing to date by cutting out sugar in our diets, and some of you have been cutting out dairy and gluten and things. And plus with your exercise, with HIIT training, you've had some really good successes. But we've come to a point where it's not working anymore. And so I'm not going to suggest that we do anything more to the diet that we're already doing or the workouts that we're doing. We're going to leave that as is. But intermittent fasting allows you on those 3 days to burn fats as energy. Now, how this works. So what I've said to you before in the past, if you go to 2.5, maybe 3 hours, your body doesn't think it's going to get fed again, and it starts to crash it into starvation mode, which means cortisol is now fired because your body's slightly stressed, and it won't allow you to burn fats as energy. So what has been said in the past is to have a little bit of food, little and often, just to keep your metabolism buzzing from your workouts, so that cortisol doesn't get introduced into your bloodstream to stop you from burning fats. Now, that is still true, but new science has shown if you push past, so if we don't eat at the 3 hour point and we push past that, we get to around about between 12 and 13 hours, and all the glycogen that is in your body is totally gone. Now, it's gone from the muscles hours and hours ago, but everything that's lying about in your liver, ready to supply your body again, all that is burnt. So you've got a completely empty system. Now, what happens is between hours sort of 13 and 16, so in those 3 hours, you are absolutely stripping off all body fats, which we would normally not do, because what has been happening is, and this is why we get to a point and don't go any lower on the body fats, is because every 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 hours, we've been topping up with some food, which means we've been producing insulin, which will, as much as your metabolic rate will be looking to burn fats, but when your body has a simpler source of energy in the bloodstream, because you've just eaten something, and no matter what you eat, it will convert that into glucose if your body needs it, which is what has been happening, and your body is satisfied to run on that. So basically we get to a point and then we can't burn anymore. So this allows us for 3 days a week. Now I've strategically chose Monday, Wednesday, Friday because they're workout days. And if you go to 8 o'clock in the evening as your last meal, by the time you come to class, 9:30 or 9:45 for some people, that's 13 and a half hours. So when you come to class and you haven't spiked, you've stuck to this religiously, by the time you get here, you will be in a complete fat burning zone. And you come in and blast your workout. After you've done it, you will feel a lot better and a lot easier to get to the 12 o'clock mark. Okay, so that's what it's all about. It's burning fats at the right time. Now, these 3 days are going to be your fat burning days. So this is where we need to stick to quite religious kind of choices and wise choices on what we eat. Okay, so the other thing to cover is the 4 days when you're not fasting. You can basically eat anything you like. Now, potentially, your list is basically your menu on those days. Because you're burning fats on those 3 fasting days, it means that you can just eat normally on the other 4 days. Or you can make better choices, or even stick to the diet that you've been doing. So basically, that covers your skipping a breakfast and making your list. The only one that we haven't covered is change your breakfast. Now, I'm looking at changing your breakfast on your 4 normal days, on non-fast days. So you may still choose to have breakfast within half an hour or an hour of when you wake. If you do so, change your breakfast each morning on those 4 mornings. I would still stay or find a better choice than using cereal and milk and those kind of things. But whatever it is, try and change it on those 4 days. That's it for video 2. Let's go to video 3, just to explain a little bit about mindset and why we're reading from a book before bed and saying the I ams before sleep. So it's all about your mental approach now and how we set the mind.